Today then, we will be asking the question, is crew cool again?
No.
You're right?
Yeah.
No.
The answer is probably still no.
No, but we think it is making a comeback and it is quickly starting to get cool again.
We should have made more slides.
Yeah, we thought it was going to take a bit longer than that, but you ruined the ending. We'll keep going anyway.
We are the VelociWraptors, 2ACF team, and very theoretical stunt team.
By that we mean we've planned a lot of stunts, but due to the UK weather, we haven't actually done much yet, so we're purely a theoretical stunt team at the moment.
We did do a demo once.
We have done a demo. We started doing CF, both of us back in early 2017, so we've been doing CF for about 18 months now.
We've also been to events around the UK. Wes has done a couple of things around Europe and the rest of the world as well.
And we've also somehow in 18 months managed to become the national champions in this year's Nationals.
Shall we bow? Thank you. So, back in the heyday of skydiving in the late 20th century, which you may remember, there were new records being set quite often, pretty much every year, and a lot of CF ones, particularly in the UK as well. Pretty much everyone was doing CF, even though they were jumping rounds and things like that. And since then, the CF scene has continued, but the advent of cheaper jumping and better aircraft has meant that freefall stuff has come a hell of a long way, whereas the CF scene has got a bit quieter in comparison.
Back then, things were all about what they called stacking. Different teams all over the country were competing to try and get the stack records. Within a few years, this went from 8-way up to 24-way, that's on the left here. On the right, they managed to set a night 22-way, and this was basically they ran out of daylight to get the day record, so they just thought they'd carry on through the night, and they set a night record of 22 instead. Now, the skill levels these guys had was unbelievable. If any of you have done much stacking, you'll know once it gets above 4-way, it starts to get really wobbly and it starts penduluming about a bit. But the picture above that, flying 2 8 stacks side by side. So it proves the skill level these guys had back then was really high. Also, for any of you who think that selfies are a fairly new thing, if you look up above, they were taking selfies right back in the 80s in the middle of a stack. Back then, they were so into crew, they would do it with pretty much anything. Here we've got round on round, round on square, and triangle on square. I bet a lot of you here didn't even know that we had triangle canopies back then. But basically, if it could fly, they would start doing crew with it.
These may play, they may not.
Here we go, we got lucky. Now, we're very fortunate, despite GoPros being a fairly new thing, back then a lot of video exists documenting all the amazing stuff that they got up to. The video on the left shows what it looks like coming in, I believe, number 14 on one of the 24 stack attempts. And you can see what would be the word? But how precise they were in coming in and docking. They didn't take the dock too early. He waited for it to settle and then took the dock. Otherwise, it would start swinging around all over the place. The other video shows them building what would be a 4-way diamond, but out of 2-way pairs. So 8 of them in total. And that's more similar to the crew we're doing nowadays, but they were doing it back then as well. They were also big into the unusual stuff. Any crazy idea they had, they would go up and do it. The video on the left is something I only discovered when researching for this topic, and it's something I guess you'd call a stall plane. So whereas we have down planes nowadays, these guys had a 2-stack, and then the canopy on the bottom went into deep brakes, stalled his canopy, putting them into a downplane with one canopy flying backwards. This is something we are definitely going to try as soon as the weather clears out. The other video is something we don't tend to do too much anymore, as it turns out they can go pretty badly, and that was called a ghost plane, where they go into a 2-stack and then the guy on the bottom cuts away, leaving 2 canopies flying under one guy. The follow-on from this video, the same guy then puts it into a by-hand with the 2 canopies flying side by side, and eventually into a downplane before getting rid of the canopy. So they will try anything.
So, all of this mad stuff pretty much culminated in this, the 100-way diamond that you can see there, which is currently the world record. This was a peak for a lot of people in the scene, and while the competition scene has continued quietly since, the logistics and efforts and cost of getting events like this organised again means that these sorts of things don't happen to quite the same degree anymore. The record front, which you'll hear about later, has been relatively quiet since. Now, though, it's on a resurgence. So you might recognise some of the people in these photos. The size of the community is growing again, and in the last few years we've had new competition records and new other records set. Particularly in the UK, we've seen a lot more activity with, I believe, one of the biggest nationals in the world currently.
For 2 years running.
They've also started doing different sorts of mad stuff, some of it quite scary, which you're going to see next.
So this was a jump organised by PD back in 2013 that they called Thread the Needle. So basically they built a big diamond, had the centrepiece fly out of it to make what they call a frame, and they then got one of the PD factory team to fly through the middle of it. This was then followed on a few years later by an event in America where instead of the canopy flying through it, they had a wingsuit fly through the middle of it. They kept building and building on this, doing it more and more times until they moved on to Project Blacklist, which happened this year.
There's the mouse. There it is.
Now, this one, they combined all the different disciplines. So rather than just having a canopy, just having a wingsuiter, they made, I guess, what you'd call XXXRW, where they had everything at once with the XRW formation flying through the middle of it.
I'm pretty sure the next step is to get a plane involved, but I don't know how they're going to do that.
Now, there is just a stills photo in case the video wasn't quite clear enough. So that is a 14-way frame with the wingsuiter and the peregrine flying right through the middle of it. Now, we know things are always much bigger and better in America, but we were inspired by this and did try to bring some of it back to the UK, albeit on a much smaller scale. So we built a 7-way frame, and then we had a canopy fly into it. She couldn't quite fit through, but we built this frame. Carol, who's up in the top corner then flew into the middle and docked on it. So we're trying to bring all these big ideas they have in America back into the UK, and it will hopefully just keep growing and growing.
I thought that worked pretty well, but yeah, it's not quite the same.
Now, this video here is one of my absolute favourites that's come out in recent years. It was a memorial jump for a guy called Steve Sims, who some of you may know, where they wanted to combine all of his favourite things into one jump. So being American, they had to get a great big American flag. So they towed this between two lightnings. They then had all his friends hop out in wingsuits and come past buzzing the flag. As they got used to it, they got more and more wingsuiters involved, so they could get all of his friends there. They then put the two canopies into a downplane, so they were going straight down towards the drop zone with the trag flailing behind them, and then they released all his ashes, which we'll see in a second.
It is pretty mad.
And yeah, that's his ashes being released there, so I think that's a pretty good send-off to have.
Away from the really scary stuff, the normal boogie events are getting bigger again all around the world, including in the UK. But this, for example, is some of the Brits who were at Spring Fling 2018 on the left there.
Now, for those of you that don't know what Spring Fling is, it's widely regarded to be the biggest gathering of canopy formation anywhere in the world. Last year, though, there was over 100 people that turned up. This year, there's over 100 already registered, and there's at least 8 of us heading out there so far from the UK. And then at Spring Fling, they do all sorts. You can turn up having never done crew before. The first few days are dedicated to coaching, and then they'll build up your skills throughout the week, getting you on 50-way formations by the end of the week, like the one on the left. They also like to do some more unusual stuff, some more technical sequential bits. So the middle photo, this was a 16-way diamond, which then broke off into 4 pairs of 4 ways, flew it round into a different 16-way formation. If you don't like the big stuff, there's always plenty of people just to hang around with and go up and do smaller stuff. Steve Sims, who we kind of saw in the memorial video earlier, is in the picture here, and he's an expert in parabatics. He goes around teaching the military display teams all the stuff they do. And he always takes people up doing 2-ways, showing them just how much fun you can have with 2 people. Naturally, you always end up making more friends. People always want to come and join in. It's saying goodbye to your friends that's the hard part. No one ever wants to let go. And this one did sort itself out, but it did get exciting for a moment.
There's also been records recently back on the cards as well. For example, here is Mary Barrett, our UK CF rep, involved in the European 30-way record that you may have heard about at the AGM earlier in late 2018.
The scenery is definitely one of my favourite things about Crew, which I think makes it really cool. And that's you can go pretty much anywhere, and with Crew as a picture, it gives a really stunning picture. This one, it's just a simple two-way. If it was a two-way flat formation, it would look a bit rubbish. But over over Black Nights this was, with someone like Ming on camera, you get absolute stunning pictures. If you scale this up, you could have a 16-way diamond over some snowy mountains in Switzerland, and that's guaranteed to be a magazine cover somewhere.
The scenery obviously hasn't changed over the decades, but the cameras have got a lot better and a lot smaller, so you can get things like that. The competition scene is also getting even better. As well as the UK obviously having some really good nationals in the past couple of years. This record for two-way sequential was set by the French in 2017 at the World Cup.
Now, for those of you that don't know too much about the competition, it's very similar to four-way competitions, really easy to get into. In the two-way discipline, two of you get out, you have 30 seconds to build the first point. The time starts when you break from the first point. You then have 5 set formations that you have to get through as many times as you can within a minute. You get fast draws and slow draws. This one's a particularly fast draw where everyone just moves along the top of the canopies without any verticals. That means they can go really quick like this. The canopies are also constantly evolving. These ones here are made by Performance Designs called the Tango, which our friend Albert at PD will hopefully be hooking us up with afterwards.
Possibly.
And these are 5-cell crossed brace canopies. They're much more closely related to your velocity than the traditional 7-cell Fury type canopies that we do Crew on normally. And yeah, as you see, the coordination these guys have is unbelievable. These canopies are very unstable, so they have to be inch perfect in stopping. This isn't them using the canopies to stop each other. They're naturally stopping there and just tapping their foot in and out on the lines. And they absolutely smashed the previous world record, which was, I believe, 40 points, set on Storms in Dubai.
And that's their world record.
Now, display jumping is also one of the things that makes Crew amazing. As I said before, it's a very visual sport, and that also includes people on the ground. Because we do it at a lower level, everyone on the ground can see it really clearly. So that gives us a very unique opportunity to show normal people a little insight into our world. If you're lucky enough to have been on public displays, you'll know how much fun they are. But in the UK, the main people that get to them are the military teams, such as the Red Devils. And these guys have some really skilled crewed people. Although they don't get involved too much with the fun jumping side of things, they do travel all around the UK and a lot of the world, showing off our sport through Crew. Internationally, things always get bigger. So this video is from Qatar, and it's a national display team doing a 16-way diamond at night over a city with fireworks going off from below them. And if that wasn't enough, you'll see in a minute they then break off and start spiraling through the fireworks. No, these will be standard canopies.
I think they've just got good luck.
And yeah, I'm not sure what the cameraman must have been thinking as he started spiraling towards that. But it looks good fun. If anyone knows a supplier for fireworks, get in touch.
So we have had an awesome time in all this CF stuff coming back because we get to wear frat hats. Yeah. Also, you can just wear pretty much whatever you want. Some teams like to wear funny leggings, but you know, there's also no need for your fancy, expensive, skin-tight tunnel suit. You can shout at each other all day long, which we quite like and we're quite good at, as you'll hear in a minute. And you get some super long jumps. It's something like 12 minutes from the top, so it's much better value for money. Also, it's quite a bit less frantic than some of your free-fall skydiving, so if you're a little bit tender from the night before, it's much easier, I swear.
It's also really easy to get involved in. You can go from having never done it before to, as we proved, national champions in 18 months. There's lots of different events on, there's constantly coaching happening, and if you travel around a bit, go to the boogies, it's super easy to pick up, and people are always willing to invite new people onto the groups. There's none of this elitist invite-only stuff. Everyone can get involved.
We only really got started in early 2017, to be honest. This summer as well, I just need to set this to go. we also had the opportunity to do a demo on the beach in Devon, which was in front of the public, including my parents, which was a bit scary. With the weather being very British, as you might be able to see, everyone else had to bin off their plans and do a solo hop and pop from 5K. Pretty boring, really.
For us, however, we had crew, so we got out over the sea at 5,000 feet. We then got together into a two-stack, turned that into a biplane, flew up and down the beach a bit looking at the view. We then turned back towards the landing area, set the smoke off before flying directly over the landing area. When we were there, we could put it into a downplane. We then flew directly down over the landing area with the smoke before breaking it apart and moving into the only theoretical stunt we've made a reality, which we are calling
Stall sharking.
This is when, flying along side by side, I get on my rear risers, completely collapsing my canopy, sending it straight down above the arena.
I spiral around him on the front risers, which doesn't look that good on GoPro, but it feels quite exciting, I swear.
But from the ground, it gives the impression of the straight line of the smoke with the canopy carving in circles around it. And that's something that's really easy to do. Anyone can just think it up, and with the basic coaching, can start doing stuff like this, and it looks great, which is what it's all about at the end of the day, looking cool.
In theory, we also then follow it with landing looking awesome, but Wes stacked it.
I didn't stack it. I sat down because I had a smoke bracket on.
It's an excuse. Has it gone to the next one? No. There we are. This is also some of our training from 2018. The sound is supposed to be on. This is an example of how you guys can communicate during CF jumps. Quite a lot, really. This is all edited from just 2 jumps, so there is a lot of shouting.
Say hello to camera, Wes. I'm doing shit with the toggles by accident. Oh, maybe. Come on.
Nice, well done.
Could be better though. I can't see because of the sun. The sun's right there. Sorry, that was a bit shite. And a bit shite again. Deeper.
One. That's it. You good?
Got it.
Right, heading. Sorry, I got distracted by heading.
Oh, yeah. Now it's the hay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, you got me. That was too ignorant.
Bit keen.
Wait for it, wait for it. Right, big way.
Huh?
Change heading left.
I think we can turn around.
Yeah, let's turn around then. We'll get out that way.
Chunter it in. That'll do. How do you do that so well? There you go.
Nice one. Move. There, you can get it. Nice one. Where the fuck's the big way gone?
I've got no idea. They must be above us.
No, not yet. Still can't see the big way. I still can't find the big way. Oh, my arms are knackered.
Yes! Bollocks! Which wing? Nice! Nice! Not quite! Very nice. I think heading's still good, I think. Yes! Nice!
Anyway, you get the picture.
And you'll be pleased to hear we did eventually find the big way. They're about 2,000 foot below us on their reserves. So that brings me on to another thing I love about crew, and that's how great the communication is. Whereas if you're doing big way flat, you come in too fast, you go low, then that's your jump over. You just sit there looking up at it, trying to slow fall, and you've wasted 60 seconds. Then you have to land, pack, wait an hour till you can go again. In crew, if you come in too fast and shoot past it, everyone shouts at you, laughs at you, and you go back round and try again. This time with the guys talking you in, telling you what you can do better. So it's just much nicer. For competition training, it means if you do a move and not quite right, whereas in 4-way, you'd have to remember what you did wrong, land, pack, debrief it, go up and try again. In crew, you just say, hang on, I messed it up. Can we go back and do that last point? And you just redo it. And you've got 12 minutes to keep going through things again and again. So you can learn so much quicker. And it works out so much cheaper because it's £20 for 12 minutes rather than £20 for 60 seconds.
Also, with Big Wave, if you get bored, you can just talk to whoever's next to you, which you can't normally. So, why do we think this makes crew cool again these days?
Frat hats.
Well, and also, I guess, there's a lot of people involved in the community now.
Yep, the community is massively growing. It's one of my favourite bits, which I know I've said a lot, but I have a lot of favourite bits. But it's such a friendly discipline. Because it's been so small, it's such a nice tight-knit group of people. You go anywhere in the world to the crew events, you'll either know the people or have close friends of friends. So you instantly get accepted into them. It's also, there's no egos at all in the sport. A great example of this is the 2017 Nationals, where my team had a terrible round, where due to a camera malfunction we got 0 and went from first to last. Then rather than all the other teams being happy that they got ahead of us, they genuinely seemed disappointed that we weren't doing as well as we could have been. Over the next few rounds, as we then got back into the lead, rather than being disappointed they'd lost, they actually seemed really happy that we'd made a comeback and won. So it's just such a great community to be part of.
There is also more events and opportunities on these days, and it's probably a totally different discipline to what you've tried before, unless you're one of the many people in here that have already tried it. But yes, there is also plenty of gear available and in terms of coaching and things like that, and you don't really need anything specialised yourself at the beginning.
Yep, that means rather than having to go out and buy gear if you want to try it, we're very fortunate in the UK. We've had a very strong group of coaches that's been going for many years, and they've got together a lot of gear. So they have almost anything you need to borrow. We've got canopies, containers, they even have helmets with radios on. So if you can't shout loud enough, we can talk you through everything you're doing in the coaching jump. So it's really easy to get involved with.
From getting your CF1, you're also already at a competitive level due to, while the Nationals is big, it's still pretty small. Yeah, so you get to shout at each other a lot, and you're still in with a chance of a medal. It's also not quite as scary as you think. It does have a bad rep. Everyone has tried bumping end cells. This is just going one step further by actually putting your feet in those lines after you've had a bit of training. Like Mary said in her talk last year, it's not all big knives and scary wraps or 800-foot cutaways. Where's Soper? Is he in here? Yes. There is still lots of misconceptions out there about it.
The gear isn't as bad as everyone used to think. So I know you're used to seeing people walking around with half the canopy hanging out, shoulders risers down around their waist. And although for crew that is safe because we're not going terminal, nowadays there's so much cheap gear out on the market that you can get presentable gear really cheap. My gear in the photo here, I got my canopy for £200, and then I got the container reserve for 100. The bargain, the guy didn't know what he was selling.
I sold that to him. That's a bad idea. I personally still like the half the canopy hanging out look, but anyway. Also, many of the videos you will have seen of stuff looking quite dramatic and scary actually sort themselves out quite quickly. We have an example here. I think. Yeah, no.
Sorry. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm good.
So this was one of our training jumps where I came round for a simple wing dock, but I came in a bit too fast.
We did about 100 jumps. Well, no, we have done about 100 jumps together, and that is as bad as it's got. And also, it's entirely my fault because I put my feet in his brake lines, which you're not supposed to do. So, our main message is that you should buy a flat hat.
A woolly flat hat, preferably.
For Wes. Our secondary message is that you should get some coaching, come to some of the events that we'll talk about in a second, and join the growing UK CF community, and plan some of the entertaining stuff that you may have seen on videos today, because our own stunts are still mostly theoretical, so the more people the better, and join in the plans. It currently takes 5 jumps to get CF1, but we believe that may be changing in the event that we'll find out afterwards today. But it still starts with 2-way skills jumps with a coach, similar to FS1. I had about 400 jumps when I started, which probably helped, but that's not a requirement. And yeah, Mary's talk afterwards in the Canopy Working Group seminar will update us on the requirements.
There's also, if you can't make it abroad to any of the events, there's a lot of us heading out there doing all these jumps in America, and then we're coming back bringing all the skills we've learnt there and organising these same jumps back in the UK. You saw earlier we did it with the frame, and this year with so many of us heading out to Spring Fling, we're bound to be bringing back a lot of great stuff and putting on these same events. It's a good time to get involved.
So we think crew's cool again. Speaking of events, there is at least one BPA Coaching Roadshow, which I don't believe we have a date finalised, but obviously it will be this year. There is also Spring Fling in Florida, which we mentioned a couple of times. Me, Wes, and a whole bunch of other Brits, some of who are in this room, are going out to, which should be fun.
There is also, on the competition side of things, a dedicated competition coaching event at Langer. This is where we've got the previous French national team coming over. So if you've got a team already and you want some coaching, that's a perfect time for that. If you don't have a team yet, you can grab a mate, do it together. There's also 2 GPs, one at Carc and one at Langer. Again, even if you don't have a team, drop us an email, say you want to do it, turn up, we'll supply the gear, we'll find you a teammate. You don't even need CF1, to be honest. As long as you're really close, we can make it work with coaches. So it's really easy to get involved. Things end in Nationals, which is at Dunkeswell this year. There's been a great turnout for the last couple of years, and we're sure it's just going to keep growing.
That's also, for the first time, there's 2 UKSLs, so there's even more chance to get involved. And they're spread around the country, so wherever you are, you can come.
If you're one of those jumpers that does most of your jumping abroad, now in America there's a great group of guys called the Raw Dogs, which I guess would best be described as, I don't know.
Sort of a coaching collective, aren't
That's
they?
the word, collective. A coaching collective. Where it's just a group of people that are really passionate about crew. They have all the gear, and they travel around the whole of the United States just organising great events and coaching for beginners. So if you are abroad, they're the guys to get in touch with. They're who inspired this talk today. Chris Bones, who's one of them, wrote a talk for a magazine called Is Crew Cool Again? He proved that it was. We're hopefully doing the same.
Hopefully. Here's a pretty picture. We're now on Facebook.
Yeah, we have also, together with the team, created a Facebook page. Now, this isn't one where we're going to be spamming you with stuff about how great our sponsors are, mainly because most of ours are made up just to fill the space on the jersey.
Yes.
It's just going to be one where we talk about how you can get involved in crew and documenting our journey towards the Romania World Cup and the Russia World Championships, which we're working towards.
Working towards qualifying, that is. We would like to thank our one real sponsor, Tamsin Gulliver, representing Gulliver Smokehouse, who has some samples, and we also have some Strongbow, for anyone who actually asks a decent question. Thank you for listening.
We'd also just like to say we hope that we have proved that crew is cool again. We also hope we haven't offended anyone that has been active during the quiet period. We're not saying you guys weren't cool, and it's due to your dedication through the quiet period that's kept crew going and is enabling this resurgence now. So that's it from us. Anyone have any questions?
Oh wait, did anyone get bingo?
Can you say flaps and free flapping?
Oh,
Who's Jeff? Yeah, who's Jeff?
Jeff Montgomery.
Bingo!
I think he gets a cider.
Cider, please.
Is anyone close? I think, is that one less word for the blue stars? What was
Yeah,
he?
if you got the blue star, that's a free cider.
Yeah. We did say free fly earlier. Well, there we go. About, oh. Yeah, Tamsin says there is a number of different jerky types. Hashtag sponsored. Sponsored. Just saying. Has anyone? Sorry, Sophie, have you got a question, or is it a bingo related question?
No. In all seriousness.
This is very serious.
Seriously.
Oh.
How can you justify cheating the way you do by training for nationals?
I know. We actually did a whole 2 weeks off work, and I don't know how many jumps we did. It wasn't a huge number. Thank you.
I don't class it as training. I think it's just dedication to the cause. We don't want the party to end, so we keep nationals going year round with our drinking and jumping.
Is it going to get there? Would you like cider or jerky?
You say that you don't need a certain amount of number of jumps to actually start, but what would you recommend? Like, really, are you okay at 50 jumps to start, or?
I would say no. And in theory, I think the minimum requirements are B license, but we don't, we recommend just having more before you start. So I started with 400, which made it quite a bit easier. I would say probably 200. I'm looking towards Mary. And so the requirement is 100 and B license. Okay. That's the minimum feel free to have more.
Realistically, is there a maximum canopy size before you can start? So would you have to reach a certain downsize to a certain level?
You don't need to downsize. You need to be matched on wing loading with whoever else you're jumping with. So this is why really bigger people will jump bigger canopies and smaller people will jump smaller canopies. For coaching purposes, you might go on something bigger for coaching just because you're learning anyway. But if you let us know what sort of thing you're jumping, that'll be fine.
It's the coach's responsibility to upsize to match you.
Sorry, what was that?
So it's the coach's responsibility to upsize to match you, not
Yes.
not for you to downsize.
Yes, you don't necessarily need to downsize. Don't worry. But I think, was that in a slide? I think there was a slide saying you don't need to downsize.
Do you need a specialist crew canopy straight away?
Yes, but there are spares in the UK that can be used for coaching. If you're interested, get in touch. There's a lot of people who are involved in organising this sort of thing. Do you want cider or jerky?
I was going to ask about crew camera. What's kind of involved in if you want to start getting into that?
So for crew camera, I think Martin would be the perfect person to answer if you would mind.
Crew camera, it's not complicated. It's just learning. It's just learning a few techniques. The biggest issue is probably working out what canopy to fly, so that you can match the people you're filming. You don't need a crew canopy, but it needs to be relatively compatible. And then you just have to learn a few techniques of sort of getting out of the aircraft, pattern to fly to get in behind them, and then where to sit and where to look. But it's good fun, and it's not hard to get into. But I'd recommend getting a bit of instruction to just sort of give you the basics to have a go.
My one season of crew camera, I have no busts with 0 camera experience before. That was on the Lightning. I've also filmed fun jumps on my sport kit. It's just a bit harder work, and it wouldn't be judgeable, but it is watchable. So yeah, it's not hard to get into if that's how you just want to start it. But something like a Lightning would help. Are there any more? Oh, there's more questions. Charlie has one. Is it cider related?
Can I hear more about your sponsor, please?
Oh yes, so Gulliver Smokehouse. Oh, Wes, have you been giving out business cards too with the jerky? We have some handwritten business cards for the jerky, so do get in touch
The
with
Gulliver
that.
Smokehouse, it's a local independent business that makes the most amazing jerky. We've got samples down the front. If you want to come down and try, there should be plenty left. It's all natural ingredients, handmade by Tamsin.
Locally sourced and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
made
Really
last night maybe.
And it's full of protein, so it's really
Actually made last night.
full of protein, so it's really good for team training. It's how we stay in such great shape.
Yes, yes. Chris has got one. Oh.
If my CF buddies and I rock up at a drop zone, will they allow me to do CF?
Not hitboard stove, but I think it depends on the drop zone. It would be worth having a chat with the people in charge because CF, like I said, the jumps are 12 minutes long. That can really get in the way. Sometimes it doesn't get in the way if, say, you choose to get out at 7 on the way up. Some drop zones don't let you get out on the way up. Dunkeswell has in the past put people out on the way down after they've dropped at the top. But there are options out there. You just need to have a chat with the people in charge to make sure that you don't get in the way.
Okay.
Because getting in the way is really bad. I do have a really good video that I didn't put in this. Sympathetic. Yeah, Langham's pretty sympathetic.
Yeah, Langham's fairly good crew. Headcorn is absolutely great. There's a lot of crew jumps down there. Carb is really good. They've got a big crew scene there. So there's plenty of places around. The main thing is if you rock up to Hibblestow on a busy weekend with the planes they have, it just logistically doesn't work. So it's not the drop zones hating crew, it's just not practical. But if you go to the quieter ones, I can't see any of them having a problem with it.
Are we still banned from Simpson?
We don't have a representative from Simpson, but we probably are. Any more questions?
Chris, go on.
Sorry, is the requirement likely to change much from 5 jumps?
Yes, it is likely to change at 4:30 in conference room 4.
Where Mary's going to tell us.
About the evolution, I guess you'd call call it, of the CF system. I won't be wearing any spoilers, mainly because I don't know them. But if you come along to them, Mary will be discussing it. If not, I'm sure it will be fed back through the BPA. But yeah, the system is having a bit of an overhaul at the moment to make it easier for you guys to get involved.
Can everyone stay put while I take a photo? This is to send my mum. Excellent. Thank you. Oh. Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Are there any more questions? Oh, cool.